Fear does not protect your life when it controls your decisions. It slowly teaches you to avoid the life you should be living. You are not afraid only when you are standing in front of a serious problem. Fear can appear during a simple conversation, a difficult decision, a new opportunity, or a moment when someone disagrees with you. You may stay silent because you fear judgment. You may delay action because you fear failure. You may avoid a problem because facing it feels uncomfortable. You may worry about the future so much that you forget to deal with today. But here is the truth. You do not need to remove every fear before you can live with confidence. You need to stop allowing fear to make your choices. Stop being afraid of people, problems, and life is about developing that control. You will learn how to face uncomfortable situations, handle difficult people, solve problems directly, reduce unnecessary worry, trust yourself, and continue moving through hard days without losing your direction. Listen carefully, because this audiobook is not about pretending life is easy. It is about becoming strong enough to face life as it is, and still choose your next action with clarity. Chapter 1. Face your fear before it controls you. Fear becomes stronger when you keep avoiding the thing that creates it. A person can spend years making choices based on what might go wrong instead of what actually needs to be done. The longer you run from fear, the more authority you give it over your decisions. Fear is not always a sign that something is dangerous. Many times, it is simply a reaction to uncertainty. Your mind notices that you cannot predict the result and starts creating possible problems. You may feel nervous before speaking to someone. You may delay an important decision because you are afraid of making the wrong choice. You may avoid starting something because failure feels uncomfortable. The feeling is real, but the danger may not be real. This difference matters because you cannot manage fear properly until you understand what is causing it. Start separating real danger from emotional discomfort. Real danger requires protection and careful judgment. Emotional discomfort often requires experience and action. Confusing the two can make an ordinary situation feel much bigger than it actually is. There is a simple exercise you can use today. Take one fear that has been affecting your daily decisions. Write down exactly what you are afraid will happen. Do not write a general sentence such as, "I am scared of people." Be specific. Write that you are afraid someone will reject your opinion. Write that you are afraid your manager will criticize your work. Write that you are afraid you will look foolish while speaking. Specific fear is easier to examine than vague fear. Now ask yourself what evidence supports that fear. Then ask what evidence does not support it. This small exercise teaches your mind to separate facts from predictions. Many fears survive because they are never questioned. A person feels something strongly and immediately treats the feeling as proof. Feelings deserve attention, but they do not automatically provide accurate information. There is another important fact about fear. Avoidance can give you immediate relief while making the fear stronger later. You refuse to make the phone call and feel better for a few minutes. You avoid the conversation and experience less tension that evening. You stay silent during the meeting and feel safe because nobody can criticize what you said. Your brain can learn from that relief. It may begin to believe that avoiding the situation was the reason you felt better. That is how fear can slowly control ordinary life. It does not always force you to do something dramatic. Sometimes it simply convinces you to delay one small action, then another, then another. Months later, you may discover that your choices have been shaped by things you were afraid to face. A better response is controlled exposure through small actions. You do not need to attack every fear in one day. You need to stop teaching yourself that avoidance is your only protection. Start with a situation that makes you uncomfortable but does not place you in real danger. Speak first in a small conversation. Share one honest opinion. Make the phone call you have delayed. Ask for clarification instead of pretending you understand. Take one small action that fear has been preventing. The goal is not to feel fearless. The goal is to become capable of acting while feeling uncomfortable. That is a much more useful skill. Courage is not the absence of nervousness. Courage becomes practical when your decision is based on what matters, rather than on the temporary feeling in your body. Notice what happens physically during fear. Your heart may beat faster. Your hands may become cold. Your stomach may tighten. Your breathing may become shallow. These reactions can make the situation feel even more serious. You can interrupt that cycle by slowing your breathing and relaxing your body before making a decision. A calmer body gives you more room to examine the situation clearly. Try a simple practice. Breathe slowly for a few moments and keep your attention on the physical feeling of your feet against the floor. Look around the room and notice ordinary details. Hear the sounds around you. Feel the chair beneath you. Then state the problem in one simple sentence. This brings your attention away from imagined outcomes and back to the present situation. This practice is useful because fear often takes you into the future. You start experiencing a conversation that has not happened. You hear criticism that nobody has spoken. You imagine rejection before you have asked. You picture failure before you have started. Your body reacts to these predictions even though they are not current facts. You can train yourself to return to what is actually happening. Ask yourself what needs to be handled today, not next month, not in the worst possible future, today. That question reduces a large emotional problem into a specific task. Consider a person who is afraid of speaking honestly to a family member. The fear may not disappear simply because someone tells them to be confident. They need a practical method. They can decide what they want to communicate. They can remove unnecessary accusations. They can choose a calm time to speak. They can use simple sentences. They can listen to the other person without immediately defending themselves. They can accept that the other person may disagree. That person has now replaced vague courage with specific behavior. This is an important principle in personal development. Confidence grows more reliably from evidence than from positive words. Every time you handle a difficult situation properly, you collect evidence that you can handle difficult situations. That evidence becomes part of how you see yourself. You can use the same principle at work. Suppose you are afraid of making mistakes. You may start checking everything repeatedly. You may avoid taking responsibility. You may wait for someone else to make the decision. You may spend too much time trying to make your work perfect. The real problem may not be the mistake itself. The deeper problem may be your belief that making a mistake means you are incapable. Replace that belief with a more useful standard. A mistake is information about what needs to improve. That does not mean every mistake is harmless. Some mistakes have serious costs. But the practical response is to identify what happened and improve the process. Ask what caused the mistake. Ask what warning sign you missed. Ask what small change could prevent the same problem next time. This changes your relationship with failure. You stop treating every mistake as a judgment about your worth. You start treating mistakes as information that can improve your behavior. That shift can reduce fear because the result is no longer the only thing that matters. Your response becomes important too. People often fear other people because they give too much importance to other people's reactions. A stranger's opinion can feel powerful. A co-worker's criticism can stay in your mind all evening. One negative comment can become louder than 10 positive comments. This happens because the human mind pays attention to social rejection. But paying attention does not mean every opinion deserves authority. You need a personal standard for deciding whose feedback matters. Ask whether the person understands the subject. Ask whether they have observed your work fairly. Ask whether their criticism is specific. Ask whether they want to help you improve or simply want to express frustration. These questions help you evaluate feedback instead of automatically accepting it. This does not mean ignoring criticism. Mature people listen carefully to useful criticism because it can reveal weaknesses they cannot see themselves. The important difference is that they examine criticism rather than obeying it. You can listen without surrendering your judgment. There is also a fear that comes from wanting everyone to approve of you. That goal is impossible. Different people have different values, experiences, expectations, and personalities. A decision that earns approval from one person may disappoint another. Trying to satisfy everyone can force you to change your behavior constantly. A healthier approach is to decide what kind of person you want to be and then measure your actions against that standard. Are you honest? Are you dependable? Do you keep your commitments? Do you treat people fairly? Do you admit mistakes? Do you do your work properly, even when nobody is watching? These standards are more stable than public approval. Your daily behavior becomes easier to manage once you stop asking whether everyone likes you and start asking whether you respect your own conduct. This does not make you careless about other people. It makes you responsible for your own behavior, rather than responsible for every reaction around you. Fear also becomes smaller when you prepare properly. Many people call themselves afraid when they are actually unprepared. A person who has not studied may feel nervous before an exam. A person who has not practiced may feel nervous before a presentation. A person who has not planned their finances may feel anxious about money. In these situations, repeating positive statements does not solve the central problem. Preparation gives fear less room to grow. Study the material, practice the conversation, review the numbers, make the list, gather the information, rehearse the skill. Preparation cannot guarantee a perfect result, but it gives you a stronger position from which to respond. Use this question regularly. What part of my fear can be reduced through preparation? That question turns emotion into action. Perhaps you cannot control whether someone accepts your proposal. You can control whether your proposal is clear. You cannot control whether a customer says yes. You can control whether you understand their needs. You cannot control every event in life. You can control how ready you are for the events you can reasonably prepare for. Another useful habit is to stop predicting emotional pain before it happens. People often say, "I cannot handle being rejected." But they may have already survived rejection many times. They may have lost friendships, failed interviews, received criticism, or experienced disappointment and still continued living. Their history contains evidence of resilience that their current fear ignores. Look at your own history honestly. Remember situations that once felt unbearable but eventually became manageable. Remember the morning after the difficult conversation. Remember the week after the failed attempt. Remember the time you were embarrassed and later realized that most people had forgotten about it. Your past contains practical evidence about your ability to recover. This is not about pretending everything will be easy. Some experiences hurt deeply. Some problems take months or years to solve. The lesson is more realistic. Pain does not always mean you are unable to continue. Discomfort can exist alongside responsible action. You also need to understand the difference between solving fear and feeding fear. Repeatedly analyzing the same problem can feel productive because your mind is busy. But mental activity is not always progress. You can spend an hour imagining every possible negative outcome and finish with no new information and no useful action. Set a limit for analysis. Give yourself a short period to understand the problem. Identify what you know. Identify what you do not know. Identify what you can control. Then choose the next useful action. This prevents thinking from becoming another form of avoidance. For example, suppose you are considering applying for a better job. You may worry that you are not qualified. Instead of spending weeks thinking about it, compare the job requirements with your actual skills. Identify the missing skills. Improve one of them. Update your resume. Ask someone experienced to review it. Submit the application. Now your fear has produced a process rather than paralysis. The same method works with personal problems. Do not ask only, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is the next responsible thing I can do?" That question is powerful because it moves your attention toward behavior. It does not require you to enjoy the situation. It requires you to participate in solving it. There will be days when fear returns. That does not mean you failed. Emotional reactions are not permanent achievements or permanent failures. You may handle a difficult conversation confidently one week and feel nervous about another conversation the next week. Your job is not to maintain one emotional state forever. Your job is to keep practicing useful responses. Create a small daily courage routine. Each morning, choose one action you have been avoiding. Keep it reasonable and specific. Make the call. Start the task. Ask the question. Set the boundary. Admit the mistake. Speak honestly. Finish the difficult work before distracting yourself. At the end of the day, record what you did. Do not record whether you felt brave. Record whether you acted responsibly. This is an important difference. Feelings change throughout the day. Behavior gives you clearer evidence. You may have been nervous and still completed the task. That is progress worth recording. Over time, these small actions change your relationship with yourself. You begin to see that fear can be present without controlling your decisions. You learn that nervousness does not always require retreat. You learn that uncertainty does not mean you are helpless. You learn that problems become easier to manage after you stop spending all your energy trying to avoid them. Life will continue to contain difficult people. Problems will continue to appear. Some plans will fail. Some conversations will hurt. Some days will feel heavy. Personal growth does not remove these experiences. It improves your ability to respond to them. So today, identify one thing you have been avoiding because of fear. Name it clearly. Separate the facts from your predictions. Decide what part you can control. Prepare for that part. Then take one action before the day ends. Do not wait for your fear to disappear before you live your life. Let your actions teach your mind something new. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can feel uncertain and still decide. You can face a problem without knowing every answer. You can hear criticism without losing your self-respect. You can meet difficult days without allowing them to decide who you become. The person you become is shaped by what you repeatedly do in the moments that make you uncomfortable. Face those moments honestly. Handle what is in front of you. Learn from what happens. Then take the next step with a clearer mind and stronger self-respect. Chapter 2. Stop letting other people intimidate you. Other people only gain too much control over your confidence when you start measuring your value through their reactions. Intimidation often begins long before anyone says a threatening word. It can begin with a title, a strong personality, a confident voice, expensive clothes, social status, or the belief that someone is more important than you. The real problem is often not the person standing in front of you. The problem is the meaning you give their presence. A useful lesson in human behavior is that confidence and authority are not the same thing. Someone can speak loudly and still be wrong. Someone can hold an important position and still make poor decisions. Someone can appear extremely confident while privately feeling uncertain. Learning this distinction protects you from giving automatic respect to appearances. Respect should be based on character, competence, and behavior rather than fear. Start noticing what happens inside you around intimidating people. Your voice may become quieter. You may agree too quickly. You may avoid eye contact. You may forget what you wanted to say. You may leave the conversation and remember the points you should have made. These reactions are useful information. They show you exactly where your confidence changes under pressure. Do not judge yourself for having that reaction. Study it. The goal is to understand your behavior well enough to change it. Before an important conversation, write down 3 things you need to communicate. Keep them short. This gives your mind a clear structure when pressure rises. You are less likely to lose your point simply because the other person speaks with confidence. There is another practical skill that changes difficult conversations. Slow down your response. Intimidating people often create pressure by speaking quickly, demanding immediate answers, or reacting strongly to disagreement. You do not have to match their speed. Take a breath, pause for a moment, then answer the actual point. A calm pause can prevent you from agreeing to something you do not understand or accept. You can also use simple sentences that protect your position. Say that you need time to consider the decision. Say that you see the situation differently. Say that you need more information. Say that you cannot agree yet. These statements are not aggressive. They simply communicate that your judgment belongs to you. Many people struggle with intimidation because they believe disagreement will automatically damage a relationship. That belief creates unnecessary pressure. Healthy relationships can survive disagreement. In fact, a relationship that requires constant agreement is not giving you much room to be honest. Learning to disagree respectfully is one of the most useful forms of social confidence. Practice disagreement in small situations first. You do not need to begin with the most difficult person in your life. Start by expressing a different preference during an ordinary conversation. Explain your reasoning without trying to win. Listen to the other person's response. Notice that disagreement can happen without disaster. Each experience gives you more evidence that being honest does not automatically create rejection. You should also stop confusing kindness with weakness. A polite person can still have strong boundaries. You can listen without agreeing. You can understand someone's feelings without accepting unfair treatment. You can remain respectful while saying no. These are separate skills, and learning to use them together creates a much stronger form of confidence. Consider how often people say yes simply because they are uncomfortable with another person's disappointment. They accept extra work. They lend money they cannot afford to lose. They change plans they wanted to keep. They tolerate rude behavior. Later, they feel frustrated because they believe other people take advantage of them. The problem often began with one missing skill. They never clearly communicated their limits. A boundary becomes useful only when you can state it clearly and maintain it through action. You do not need a long explanation. You can say that you are unavailable. You can say that you will not continue a conversation while someone is insulting you. You can say that you need a different arrangement. Then behave consistently with what you said. This is where many people struggle. They communicate a boundary and then immediately apologize for having one. They explain themselves for 10 minutes. They give 5 reasons. They ask for permission to protect their own time. Excessive explanation can make you feel as though your basic needs require approval. You can be considerate without defending every reasonable decision. Another important lesson is to separate intimidation from genuine expertise. Sometimes another person really does know more than you. That is not a reason to feel inferior. It is a reason to learn. You can respect someone's knowledge without reducing your own value. Ask useful questions. Listen carefully. Take notes. Study the subject later. Confidence does not require pretending to know everything. A mature person can say, "I do not know that yet." Those words are powerful because they remove the pressure to perform. Pretending to know something creates more anxiety because you now have to protect a false image. Admitting what you do not know gives you the freedom to improve. The same principle applies at work. A senior colleague may understand a process better than you. Instead of becoming intimidated, identify what they know that you do not. Ask how they reached a decision. Ask what mistakes beginners commonly make. Ask what they would check first. You turn the intimidating person into a source of useful information rather than a threat to your identity. But learning does not mean allowing someone to disrespect you. Expertise does not excuse humiliation. Position does not justify cruelty. A manager can give difficult feedback without insulting an employee. A teacher can correct a student without making them feel worthless. A family member can disagree without using fear to control the conversation. Learn to evaluate behavior separately from status. Ask yourself whether the person is being firm or disrespectful. Are they giving useful criticism or attacking your character? Are they asking for accountability or trying to control you? Are they presenting facts or using anger to avoid discussion? These questions help you respond to the actual behavior instead of reacting to the person's image. Your body can also help you notice intimidation early. Pay attention to tension in your shoulders, jaw, hands, and stomach. Notice whether you stop breathing normally or begin speaking much faster. These physical signs can become an early warning system. Once you recognize them, you can pause before your automatic response takes over. Use that pause to return to your purpose. Ask yourself what you came there to accomplish. Maybe you need information. Maybe you need to solve a problem. Maybe you need to communicate a boundary. Maybe you need to correct an error. Keeping your attention on the purpose prevents the other person's personality from becoming the main subject of the conversation. One of the strongest forms of confidence is preparation without performance. You do not need to look powerful. You need to know your facts. Before an important meeting, review the numbers. Before a difficult discussion, identify the specific issue. Before negotiating, know your limits. Before asking for something important, know exactly what you are requesting. Preparation reduces the need to depend on emotional confidence. You may still feel nervous, but you have something solid to work with. This is especially useful for people who believe confident people never feel uncomfortable. They do. The difference is that capable people often have systems that help them function despite discomfort. Another mistake is trying to predict what an intimidating person thinks about you. You cannot reliably know another person's private thoughts. You may interpret a serious expression as anger. You may interpret silence as rejection. You may assume someone is judging you when they are simply concentrating. These assumptions can create unnecessary fear. Return to observable behavior. What did they actually say? What did they actually do? What decision was actually made? This keeps you grounded in information instead of imagination. It is a simple habit, but it can prevent hours of unnecessary worry after a difficult interaction. Your confidence also grows when you keep promises to yourself. Tell yourself you will speak during the meeting, and then speak. Decide that you will ask one important question and ask it. Decide that you will stop accepting one unfair behavior and follow through. Every completed commitment gives you evidence that you can trust your own decisions. Do not wait for everyone around you to become easier before you become stronger. Some people will remain demanding. Some will be impatient. Some will disagree with you. Some will test your boundaries. Your responsibility is not to control their personalities. Your responsibility is to control your own response. Start today with one person who makes you feel smaller than you should. Do not create unnecessary conflict. Simply change one behavior. Speak at your normal volume. Finish your sentence. Ask for clarification. Give your real opinion. Take a pause before answering. Refuse one unreasonable request respectfully. Then observe what happens. You may discover something important. The person was not as powerful over you as you believed. The fear came partly from the story you had created around them. Once you stop giving automatic authority to another person's presence, you can see them more accurately. They become another human being with strengths, weaknesses, preferences, mistakes, and limitations. That is where real social confidence begins. You do not need to dominate people. You do not need to prove that you are better. You do not need to make others feel small so you can feel strong. You simply need to stand comfortably in your own decisions, communicate clearly, learn where learning is needed, and protect your dignity where protection is necessary. People may disagree with you after you become more honest. Some may complain when you establish boundaries. Others may respect you more because they can finally understand where you stand. Either way, you gain something important. You stop spending your life adjusting yourself to every strong personality you meet. Your task is simple but serious. Enter conversations with preparation. Listen without surrendering your judgment. Speak without unnecessary apology. Accept useful correction. Reject disrespect. Give people the respect they have earned while keeping responsibility for your own choices. With repeated practice, intimidating people stop controlling your behavior because your confidence no longer depends on their approval. Chapter 3. Speak honestly without fear of judgment. Honest speech becomes difficult when you believe every opinion about you must be positive. The moment you make approval your goal, your words start changing. You may hide what you really think. You may agree with ideas you do not support. You may laugh when something hurts you. You may stay quiet because you are already imagining how people will react. Over time, this habit creates a painful distance between what you feel and what you say. The solution is not to say everything that comes into your mind. Honest communication is not careless communication. A mature person learns to tell the truth with timing, respect, and purpose. There is a major difference between being honest and using honesty as an excuse to hurt someone. Real honesty asks whether the truth needs to be spoken, whether it can be said respectfully, and whether saying it will help solve the actual problem. Start by noticing the moments when you silence yourself. Keep a small record for 1 week. Write down situations where you wanted to say something but stayed quiet because you feared judgment. Record what you wanted to say. Record who was present. Record what you predicted would happen. This exercise can reveal patterns that are difficult to notice during a busy day. You may discover that you are not afraid of all judgment. You may be especially afraid of disappointing certain people or looking inexperienced in certain situations. That discovery matters because fear becomes easier to manage when you know its specific source. Perhaps you learned early in life that disagreement caused conflict. Perhaps people around you reacted strongly whenever you expressed a different opinion. Perhaps you made a mistake in public and became very sensitive to embarrassment. Your past can explain the habit, but it does not have to control your future communication. A useful rule is to separate truth from performance. Many people speak differently depending on who is listening because they are trying to manage their image. They want to appear intelligent. They want to seem successful. They want everyone to believe they are confident. This creates pressure because every conversation becomes a test of identity. You become more relaxed when your goal changes from looking impressive to being clear. You do not need the perfect sentence. You need to communicate the important point accurately. You do not need to sound highly educated. You need the other person to understand what you mean. Simple language often creates better communication because there is less room for confusion. Before saying something important, identify the main message in one sentence. Suppose you need to tell a coworker that their repeated interruptions are affecting your concentration. Your main message might be that you need uninterrupted time to complete the work. That is clearer than preparing a long speech about everything the person has done wrong. Then separate the behavior from the person's character. Say what happened instead of labeling the person. There is a major difference between saying that you were interrupted several times during the meeting and saying that you are always disrespectful. The first statement describes an observable event. The second attacks identity and invites an argument. This small communication skill can change difficult conversations. Focus on what happened, explain its effect, and state what you need next. You are not trying to prove that the other person is bad. You are trying to make the situation clear enough for improvement. Another practical lesson is to stop using unnecessary words that weaken your message. People often say sorry before expressing a reasonable opinion. They say, "I might be wrong, but maybe, perhaps, I do not know if this makes sense, and I am sorry for saying this." A little humility is healthy. Constantly reducing your own message is not humility. It teaches other people that you do not trust your own judgment. You can be respectful without shrinking your voice. Say what you mean clearly. If you are uncertain, say that you are uncertain. If you have evidence, explain it. If you made a mistake, admit it. If you disagree, state the reason. Your words become stronger when they match the level of certainty you actually have. You also need to learn how to receive judgment without immediately defending yourself. Someone may disagree with you. Let them finish. Listen to the exact criticism. Ask for an example if their comment is unclear. Then decide whether the feedback contains something useful. You do not have to defend every part of yourself simply because someone has an opinion. There is a difference between criticism and rejection. A person can criticize something you did without rejecting you as a human being. If your manager says your report contains errors, that is information about your work. It is not proof that you are incapable. If a friend dislikes your decision, that does not automatically mean the relationship is ending. If someone disagrees with your opinion, the disagreement does not remove your right to have one. This distinction protects your emotional stability. Without it, every correction feels personal. You start avoiding honest conversations because you believe criticism threatens your identity. Once you separate behavior from identity, you can learn faster. Practice saying one honest sentence each day that you would normally hide because of mild discomfort. Tell someone your real preference. Admit that you do not understand something. Ask for help. Say that you cannot accept an unreasonable request. Tell someone that you appreciate what they did. Give respectful feedback instead of complaining about the person to someone else. That last habit is especially important. Speaking honestly to the right person is usually more useful than speaking emotionally about them to everyone else. Gossip can create temporary emotional relief, but it rarely solves the original problem. Direct communication gives the other person an opportunity to respond and gives you a chance to understand their side. Of course, not every truth needs to be spoken immediately. Timing matters. A person who is angry may say something technically honest but unnecessarily damaging. Give yourself enough time to calm down before discussing serious issues. Strong emotion can narrow your attention and make you focus on winning rather than solving. You can use a simple test before speaking during conflict. Ask whether your words are meant to solve the problem or release your frustration. If the main purpose is to release anger, pause, walk away for a short period, write down what you want to say, return when you can discuss the issue without trying to punish the other person. This does not mean becoming passive. Silence can also create damage. Avoiding every difficult conversation allows small problems to become larger. A missed boundary becomes a repeated boundary violation. A small misunderstanding becomes resentment. An unspoken concern becomes emotional distance. Honest communication works best when problems are addressed early and calmly. There is another reason people fear judgment. They imagine that everyone is paying close attention to them. In reality, most people are occupied with their own concerns. They remember their own mistakes more than yours. They worry about their own appearance, work, relationships, and decisions. Understanding this can reduce the pressure you place on yourself. You should still care about how your behavior affects others. The goal is not to become careless about social consequences. The goal is to stop exaggerating the amount of attention people give to your every word. One awkward sentence does not define you. One disagreement does not destroy your reputation. One mistake in conversation can usually be corrected. You can even become better at recovering from awkward moments. If you say something poorly, clarify it. If you offend someone unintentionally, acknowledge it. If you gave incorrect information, correct it. People often fear speaking because they believe every mistake must be avoided. A stronger skill is knowing how to repair mistakes after they happen. Try this in your next difficult conversation. Speak slowly enough to hear your own words. Keep your main point simple. Do not interrupt unnecessarily. Listen to the response. Ask one clear question. If the other person disagrees, stay present instead of immediately changing your position. If you discover that you were wrong, change your position without shame. Changing your mind after receiving better information is not weakness. It is intellectual honesty. The goal of honest speech is not to protect your original opinion at all costs. The goal is to communicate what you believe based on the information you have and remain open to better information. You will also need to accept that honest communication may change some relationships. A person who benefited from your silence may dislike your new boundaries. Someone who was comfortable with you always agreeing may complain when you start expressing your own view. That reaction does not automatically mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes people react to a change because the old arrangement was convenient for them. Stay respectful and examine your behavior carefully. Ask whether you are communicating clearly or becoming unnecessarily harsh. Ask whether your boundary is reasonable. Ask whether you are listening as much as you are speaking. Honest communication requires responsibility from both sides. At the end of each day, review one conversation. Do not judge yourself by whether the other person approved of you. Ask 3 practical questions. Did I say what I actually meant? Did I communicate it respectfully? Did I listen to the other person's response? Those questions give you a useful standard for improvement. With enough practice, speaking honestly becomes less dramatic. You stop treating every conversation as a test of your worth. You begin to see communication as a practical skill that can be improved through repetition, preparation, listening, and correction. Your voice does not need to be loud to be strong. Your words do not need to impress everyone to be valuable. Speak clearly when something matters. Stay quiet when silence serves a useful purpose. Tell the truth without using it as a weapon. Accept disagreement without treating it as personal failure. Let your communication become more honest because your life becomes more honest with yourself. Chapter 4. Handle problems instead of avoiding them. Problems become more expensive when you keep postponing them. A small unpaid bill becomes a larger financial burden. A simple misunderstanding becomes resentment. A weak habit becomes part of your daily routine. An unfinished task stays in your mind and takes attention away from the work that actually matters. Avoidance feels comfortable for a short time, but the problem continues to exist while you are taking a break from facing it. One of the most useful skills in life is learning to separate a problem from the emotions surrounding it. A problem may make you angry, embarrassed, worried, or disappointed. Those feelings deserve attention, but they should not be allowed to become the entire response. Start by naming the actual problem in plain language. Do not say that everything is going wrong. State exactly what needs to be fixed. Suppose your finances are becoming difficult. Saying that life is too expensive does not give you a clear action. Saying that your monthly spending is higher than your income gives you something measurable. Now you can examine expenses, remove unnecessary costs, increase income, or create a repayment plan. The emotional pressure may still exist, but you now have a practical starting point. This is an important habit. Replace vague worry with specific information. Fear grows easily around unclear situations. Numbers, dates, facts, and written plans reduce uncertainty. A person who is worried about debt should know the exact amount owed, the payment dates, the interest costs, and the money available each month. A person worried about unfinished work should know which tasks are incomplete and which one has the greatest consequence. Do not solve the entire problem in your head. Put it on paper. Write down what happened. Write down what needs to change. Write down what you can control. Then identify the smallest useful action. This method prevents a large problem from becoming one huge emotional burden. Many people avoid problems because they believe they need to feel ready before taking action. That belief creates delay. You may never feel completely ready to have a difficult conversation, change your spending, admit an error, or make an important decision. Readiness often develops after you begin working on the issue. Take responsibility for the part that belongs to you. This does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means identifying your influence. Perhaps another person caused the problem, but you still need to decide how you will respond. Perhaps circumstances were unfair, but you still have choices about your next action. Responsibility gives you something useful to work with. Blame often keeps people emotionally occupied without improving the situation. You can spend hours explaining why someone else caused your stress and still have the same problem tomorrow morning. Understanding the cause can be useful, but responsibility begins with the question of what needs to happen next. There is a practical way to make difficult problems easier. Divide them into 3 groups. The first group contains things you can control directly. The second contains things you can influence but cannot fully control. The third contains things you cannot control at all. Spend most of your effort on the first group. Use communication and negotiation for the second. Stop wasting daily energy trying to control the third. Consider a workplace conflict. You cannot control whether a co-worker likes you. You can control whether your own communication is clear. You may influence how the co-worker behaves by discussing the issue directly. You cannot control every opinion they have about you. This distinction protects your time and keeps your attention on useful actions. Problems also become easier when you stop demanding perfect solutions. A workable solution today can be better than an ideal solution that never gets implemented. If your room is disorganized, you do not need to redesign your entire home. Clean one area. If your schedule is chaotic, you do not need a perfect life system. Choose the 3 tasks that matter most tomorrow and prepare them tonight. Progress often comes from reducing the size of the next action. A person may avoid exercise because they imagine a difficult 1-hour routine. The first useful step may simply be putting on the shoes and walking for 10 minutes. Someone may avoid learning a skill because the subject feels too large. The next step may be studying one small lesson and practicing one part of it. The important point is not that every problem can be solved with a tiny action. Some problems require major decisions. The point is that action becomes easier when the first step is clearly defined. Another mistake is trying to solve problems only after they become painful. Good problem management includes early detection. Check your finances before the account becomes empty. Review your health habits before your energy drops severely. Talk about tension in a relationship before resentment becomes normal. Review your work before the deadline arrives. Create regular checkups for important areas of life. Once a week, review your money, work, relationships, responsibilities, and personal habits. Ask what is working. Ask what is getting worse. Ask what needs attention soon. This turns problem solving into maintenance instead of emergency response. Your environment can also reveal problems before your mind admits them. Look at your desk. Look at your calendar. Look at your bank statements. Look at the messages you keep postponing. Look at the tasks you repeatedly move to tomorrow. These physical signs can show where avoidance is happening. Pay special attention to repeated postponement. The task you keep delaying may be connected to a deeper concern. Perhaps you do not know how to begin. Perhaps you are afraid of criticism. Perhaps the task feels boring. Perhaps you are trying to make it perfect. Find the real reason for the delay, then address that reason directly. If you do not know how to solve something, ask for help earlier. Asking for help is not an admission that you are incapable. It is a way of using available knowledge. A skilled mechanic, teacher, accountant, manager, or experienced friend can sometimes identify a problem in minutes that you might spend weeks trying to understand. Choose the right person carefully. Do not ask everyone for advice simply because you feel uncertain. Find someone with relevant experience and a record of making sensible decisions. Ask specific questions. Listen to the answer. Then use your own judgment before acting. You should also learn to tolerate the discomfort that comes with problem solving. Some conversations will make your stomach tighten. Some decisions will leave you uncertain. Some repairs will require money or time. Some changes will make your routine uncomfortable. The presence of discomfort does not mean the decision is wrong. A useful daily practice is to complete one avoided task before giving yourself easy entertainment. Make the call before scrolling. Pay the bill before watching another video. Finish the difficult section of work before checking social media. Have the necessary conversation before spending the evening distracting yourself. This practice teaches your mind an important lesson. Difficult responsibilities can come before temporary comfort. You do not need to hate the hard task. You simply need to stop allowing comfort to determine your priorities. There will also be problems you cannot solve immediately. In those cases, focus on containment. Prevent the situation from becoming worse while you work toward a longer solution. If you cannot repay a debt today, contact the relevant person and discuss the available options. If a project cannot be completed on time, communicate early instead of disappearing. If a relationship needs repair, stop adding new damage while you decide how to address the deeper issue. Good problem solving includes communication, because silence often creates additional problems. People cannot respond to information they do not have. Clear communication can prevent assumptions, missed deadlines, and unnecessary conflict. At the end of each day, ask yourself one practical question. What problem did I move forward today? The answer does not need to be impressive. Maybe you organized important documents. Maybe you sent an overdue email. Maybe you made a difficult appointment. Maybe you admitted an error. These actions matter because they reduce the distance between knowing and doing. Life becomes more manageable when you stop treating every problem as a threat to your peace. A problem is something that requires attention, information, judgment, and action. Sometimes the solution will work immediately. Sometimes you will need another attempt. Sometimes you will need help. Sometimes you will discover that the original plan was wrong and choose a better one. Do not measure yourself by the number of problems you have. Every person has responsibilities, uncertainty, mistakes, and difficult circumstances. Measure yourself by how honestly you respond to what is in front of you. Open the message you have avoided. Look at the number you have been afraid to calculate. Make the appointment. Clean the neglected area. Start the conversation. Admit what you do not know. Ask for help. Make the plan. Take the first responsible step. The problem does not need your fear. It needs your attention. It needs clear thinking. It needs honest action. Once you develop that habit, you stop spending your life waiting for problems to disappear and start becoming the kind of person who knows how to deal with them. Chapter 5. Stop making life harder with worry. Worry can make an ordinary day feel difficult before anything difficult has actually happened. You can sit at your desk with no immediate problem in front of you and still feel tired because your mind is already dealing with tomorrow, next week, next month, and every possible bad result. The body may be sitting in a quiet room while the mind is constantly preparing for events that may never occur. Worry is not the same as planning. Planning produces a decision or an action. Worry often produces the same thought again and again without creating anything useful. You think about the conversation, but never prepare what you need to say. You think about money, but never check the numbers. You think about your future, but never decide what you will do today. Learning this difference can change the way you use your mental energy. Start paying attention to the language you use during worry. Notice words such as maybe, what if, probably, someday, and I do not know. These words often point toward uncertainty. Uncertainty is part of life, but your mind may treat it like an emergency. Once you notice this pattern, bring the thought back to something specific. Ask what is known right now. Ask what information is missing. Ask whether there is an action available today. Suppose you are worried about losing your job. Replaying that possibility for 3 hours will not protect you. A practical response would be to review your performance, improve an important skill, update your professional information, save part of your income, and understand your options. These actions do not guarantee security. They simply convert fear into preparation. This is one of the most useful ways to reduce unnecessary worry. Do not ask your mind to guarantee the future. Ask yourself how you can become better prepared for several possible outcomes. Preparation gives uncertainty a reasonable place in your life without allowing it to occupy every part of your attention. Another source of worry is trying to solve tomorrow before today has happened. You may wake up and immediately think about a difficult meeting later in the afternoon. Then you imagine the questions, the reactions, the mistakes, and the embarrassment. By the time the meeting arrives, you are already exhausted from an event that lasted only a short period. Prepare for the meeting during a specific period. Write the main points. Review the facts. Decide what you need from the conversation. Then return your attention to the present task. This creates a boundary around worry. You are not ignoring the future. You are giving the future an appropriate amount of attention. Your mind also needs periods where it is not solving anything. Constant stimulation can make this difficult. Notifications, messages, short videos, news, and endless scrolling give your attention something new every few seconds. When the mind becomes used to constant input, quiet moments can feel uncomfortable. You may mistake that discomfort for a need to think more. Create short periods without unnecessary information. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Walk without checking your phone. Eat one meal without watching something. Complete one simple task without switching between applications. These ordinary practices give your attention a chance to settle. You may discover that many worries become less powerful when they are not constantly fed by new information. This is especially important with problems that you cannot influence directly. Reading another opinion about something outside your control may make you feel informed while increasing your anxiety. Information is useful when it improves a decision. Information that only creates repeated fear needs to be limited. Another practical problem is confusing possibility with probability. Almost anything can happen. That does not mean every possible event deserves equal attention. Your mind may create an extreme outcome because it is possible and then behave as though it is likely. A better approach is to examine the actual evidence. Ask how often this outcome has happened before. Ask what factors make it more or less likely. Ask what you would realistically do if it happened. This last question is especially useful because people often fear an event more when they believe they would be helpless afterward. Having a response plan can reduce that feeling. For example, you may worry about an unexpected expense. Instead of repeatedly imagining financial disaster, create an emergency amount within your ability. Review unnecessary spending. Keep important documents organized. Know which expenses can be reduced quickly. You are not trying to remove every risk. You are building a reasonable response to risk. Worry also grows through unfinished decisions. You may keep thinking about whether to accept an opportunity, change a routine, have a conversation, or start a project. Every time the thought returns, you reconsider the same information. This creates mental fatigue. Give important decisions a process. Write down the benefits. Write down the costs. Identify the risks. Identify what information you still need. Set a reasonable deadline for deciding. Once the decision is made, stop reopening it without new information. Changing a decision because new facts appeared is sensible. Reconsidering it every night because you feel uncertain is different. You also need to stop using worry as a way to prove that you care. Some people believe that thinking constantly about a problem shows responsibility. It does not. Responsible behavior means doing what can reasonably be done. After that, repeated mental activity may add nothing. A parent can care deeply about a child's future without spending every evening imagining everything that could go wrong. A business owner can care about a company while still taking breaks. A student can care about an exam while sleeping properly instead of studying until exhaustion. Caring and worrying are not the same behavior. Sleep is another area where unnecessary worry becomes expensive. People often take their problems to bed and expect the mind to solve them in the dark. Instead, Create a short evening review. Write down unfinished tasks and the next action for each one. Put important reminders somewhere you will see them tomorrow. Once the information is written down, you do not need to keep repeating it mentally to remember it. If a worry returns while you are trying to sleep, do not begin building a full story around it. Recognize that the issue has already been recorded. Return attention to your breathing, the feeling of the bed, or another quiet physical detail. The purpose is not to force the thought away. The purpose is to stop turning one thought into 20 new problems. Another useful habit is to watch how you speak about the future. Saying everything will go wrong creates a very different mental response from saying, I do not know what will happen and I will handle what I can. The second statement is not false optimism. It is a more accurate description of uncertainty. You do not need to promise yourself that every situation will work out perfectly. Life does not provide that guarantee. You need to develop confidence in your ability to respond. That confidence comes from past evidence. Look at difficult situations you have already managed. Remember decisions you made under pressure. Remember problems that once consumed your thoughts and eventually became ordinary memories. This does not mean every future problem will be easy. It means your history contains proof that you can function during uncertainty. Use that evidence instead of demanding certainty from the future. Make your daily routine more concrete. Choose the most important task each morning. Give it focused time before unnecessary distractions take over. Keep a written list of concerns that require action. Separate those concerns from thoughts that have no useful next step. Review the list at a set time rather than carrying every concern through the entire day. At the end of the day, ask yourself where your attention went. Did you spend time solving something or repeatedly imagining it? Did you prepare for a real possibility or create several imaginary disasters? Did you act on what you could control or spend energy on what you could not change? These questions teach self-awareness without turning your day into another source of pressure. Life will always contain uncertainty. You will not know every outcome before you act. People will change their minds, plans will fail, opportunities will appear unexpectedly. Some problems will arrive without warning. A peaceful life does not come from knowing exactly what will happen. It comes from learning how to use your attention wisely. Give serious problems serious attention. Give simple problems simple attention. Give the future reasonable preparation. Give the present your full participation. Let uncertainty exist without demanding that your mind solve it every minute. You have important work to do with the day in front of you. Do that work. Make the call. Complete the task. Have the conversation. Prepare what can be prepared. Then allow yourself to live the part of life that is happening right now. Worry does not need to accompany you into every room. Your attention is valuable, and learning where to place it is one of the most practical ways to make life calmer and more manageable. Chapter 6. Stand firm when people challenge you. Standing firm does not mean becoming aggressive every time someone disagrees with you. It means knowing what you believe, understanding why you believe it, and staying respectful when another person challenges your position. Many people lose their judgment under pressure because they feel they must either fight or surrender. There is another option. You can remain calm, listen carefully, and still hold your ground. A challenge can reveal something valuable about you. It can show whether your decisions come from clear principles or from the need to be accepted. It can show whether you know your reasons or simply repeat what others have told you. It can also reveal whether you can stay reasonable when your emotions become uncomfortable. This makes disagreement a useful test of personal discipline. Start by separating disagreement from disrespect. Someone can disagree with your decision without attacking you. A colleague can question your method. A friend can dislike your choice. A family member can have a different opinion. None of these situations automatically require a defensive response. Your first responsibility is to understand what kind of challenge you are facing. Listen to the actual words instead of preparing your defense while the other person is speaking. Many arguments become worse because both people are waiting for their turn to respond. You hear half the sentence and immediately begin building your answer. You miss useful information because your mind is busy protecting your position. Practice listening until the other person finishes the main point. Then repeat the idea in your own words. Say that you understand what they are concerned about. This does not mean you agree. It simply confirms that you heard them accurately. People often become less aggressive when they feel understood because they no longer need to repeat themselves just to get recognition. After listening, examine the challenge. Ask whether the person has identified a real weakness in your thinking. Maybe you missed an important fact. Maybe your decision was based on an assumption that is no longer true. Maybe another option deserves consideration. Strong people do not protect weak ideas just because those ideas belong to them. There is a practical test you can use. Ask yourself whether you would accept the same criticism if it came from someone you respected. If the answer is yes, then the useful part of the criticism should not be rejected simply because you dislike the person delivering it. Evaluate the information separately from your feelings about the messenger. This is especially important in the workplace. Your manager may question your results. A customer may complain about your service. A colleague may point out an error. Your first reaction may be embarrassment or irritation. That reaction is normal. What matters is what you do next. Look at the facts. What exactly went wrong? What part belongs to you? What part depends on another person? What can be corrected today? What should be changed in your process? This approach turns criticism into practical information. There is a difference between accepting responsibility and accepting humiliation. You can admit that your work was poor without agreeing that you are a worthless person. You can say that you made an error without allowing someone to insult you. This distinction protects both humility and self-respect. You also need to know when to stop explaining yourself. People who fear conflict often give too many explanations because they hope the other person will approve of their decision. They keep adding reasons. They defend every detail. They become nervous when the other person remains unhappy. But another person's disappointment does not automatically prove that your decision was wrong. Give clear reasons once. Answer reasonable questions. Then allow the other person to have their reaction. You are responsible for communicating clearly. You are not responsible for controlling every emotion that follows. This becomes important when someone pressures you to change your answer immediately. You may hear statements such as, "Everyone agrees with me," "You are the only person who thinks this way," or "You are making this difficult." These statements may create social pressure without providing evidence. Do not treat group approval as proof. A large number of people can be mistaken. A small number can also be correct. Look at the facts and the reasoning. Ask what evidence supports the position. Ask what result the decision is supposed to produce. Ask what information would change your mind. That last question is powerful because it prevents stubbornness. Standing firm does not mean refusing to change. It means changing your position for a good reason, rather than changing it simply because someone applied pressure. Suppose you believe a certain work process is efficient. A co-worker challenges it and shows you that the process creates repeated errors. You review the evidence and discover that they are right. Changing your method is not weakness. It is good judgment. You stood firm long enough to examine the issue instead of changing immediately from pressure or refusing to change from pride. Pride can be just as dangerous as insecurity. An insecure person may surrender too quickly. A proud person may refuse useful correction. Both reactions prevent learning. The better response is flexible confidence. You can know your position while remaining open to better information. Your tone matters during disagreement. A calm voice gives your words more control. Speaking too quickly can make you sound uncertain. Speaking too loudly can turn a discussion into a contest. Sarcasm can create unnecessary resentment. Simple words usually work better. Say what you mean without adding unnecessary attacks. Explain the point. Give the reason. State what you are willing to do. State what you are not willing to do. Then listen. You can also use silence properly. A short pause after someone challenges you can give you time to choose your response. You do not have to answer every statement immediately. Some people speak aggressively because they are comfortable with pressure. If you rush to respond, they may control the pace of the discussion. Slow the conversation down. Ask for clarification. Ask for specific examples. Ask what outcome they want. These questions move the discussion away from emotion and toward facts. Imagine someone says that you never take responsibility. Do not immediately defend yourself by listing everything you have done. Ask what specific situation they are referring to. If they provide a valid example, examine it. If they make a vague accusation, ask for details. You are not avoiding responsibility. You are requiring the conversation to become specific enough to solve something. Specific language is one of the strongest tools during conflict. Words like always and never usually create arguments because they are difficult to prove. Replace them with actual events. Instead of saying, "You never listen," describe the conversation where you felt ignored. Instead of saying, "You always make things difficult," identify the decision that created the problem. This makes disagreement more useful because both people have something concrete to discuss. You should also learn to recognize challenges that are not meant to create understanding. Some people provoke others because they enjoy getting a reaction. They may insult you, change the subject, interrupt repeatedly, or exaggerate your words. In those situations, more explanation may not improve the conversation. You can state that you are willing to discuss the issue respectfully. If the other person continues insulting you, step away. Leaving an unproductive conversation is not cowardice. Sometimes it is the most disciplined response available. Your goal is not to win every argument. Winning an argument while damaging a valuable relationship may be a poor result. Being proven right may matter less than solving the actual problem. Ask yourself what outcome you want before entering a difficult discussion. Maybe you want a better work process. Maybe you want a fair agreement. Maybe you need to correct misinformation. Maybe you need to protect a personal boundary. Knowing the desired outcome helps you avoid unnecessary battles. There is another important part of standing firm. Keep your promises to yourself after the conversation ends. If you say that you will complete a task, complete it. If you say that you will review the evidence, review it. If you say that a certain behavior is unacceptable, respond consistently when it happens again. People take your boundaries more seriously when your actions match your words. You do not need to threaten consequences. You need to behave consistently. This also builds your own confidence. Every time you make a clear decision and follow through, you learn that your judgment can guide your actions. Confidence becomes less dependent on how comfortable other people are with your choices. Start practicing this skill in ordinary situations. The next time someone disagrees with you, resist the urge to defend yourself immediately. Listen completely. Ask one useful question. State your position clearly. Give your reason, then stop talking long enough to hear the response. The next time someone criticizes you, look for the useful information before reacting emotionally. The next time someone pressures you for an immediate answer, give yourself time when the situation allows it. The next time you realize you are wrong, admit it without turning the mistake into a personal attack against yourself. These small behaviors create a stronger character because they train you to stay present under pressure. There will always be people who challenge your decisions. Some will help you improve. Some will misunderstand you. Some will disagree honestly. Some will challenge you because they want control. Your job is not to treat every person the same. Your job is to understand the situation and choose the right response. Stand firm without becoming hard. Listen without becoming weak. Change your mind when evidence deserves it. Keep your position when your reasons remain sound. Speak respectfully when others disagree. Leave conversations that have become abusive or pointless. You do not need to prove your strength through anger. You demonstrate strength through control, clarity, consistency, and good judgment. A person who can remain steady during disagreement has learned something valuable about personal discipline. They no longer need every conversation to end with approval. That is the skill worth practicing each day. Know what matters to you. Know why it matters. Hear other people carefully. Examine what they say. Correct yourself when necessary. Protect your standards when necessary. Then continue your work without carrying every disagreement into the rest of your day. Chapter 7. Trust yourself when nobody understands you. Not every important decision in your life will make sense to the people around you. Some choices will look strange before the results become visible. Some goals will sound unrealistic to people who have different priorities. Some changes will disappoint people who were comfortable with the old version of you. Learning to trust yourself means becoming capable of making responsible decisions without needing constant approval. Self-trust is not believing that every decision you make is correct. That would be confidence without judgment. Real self-trust means knowing that you can examine a situation, make the best decision you can with the information available, and correct yourself when new information appears. You do not need perfect certainty to make a responsible choice. Many people have never learned this skill because they constantly ask other people what they should do. They ask friends, family members, co-workers, and strangers for opinions. Getting another perspective can be useful, but there is a point where advice becomes a substitute for personal responsibility. The more people you ask, the easier it becomes to avoid choosing for yourself. Start noticing how often you seek approval before making ordinary decisions. Ask yourself whether you actually need advice or whether you simply want someone to remove the discomfort of choosing. That distinction is important. Advice can provide information. It cannot take responsibility for the outcome. Build a habit of making small decisions independently. Choose your schedule. Decide which task deserves your attention first. Select what you will spend your money on. Decide how you will use an hour of free time. These choices may seem insignificant, but they give you repeated practice in making decisions without asking everyone around you for permission. Then increase the difficulty gradually. Make decisions about your work, habits, education, and long-term priorities. Write down why you made each important decision. Include the facts you considered, the risks you accepted, and the result you expect. This creates a record of your reasoning. That record becomes valuable later because memory can be unfair. When a decision goes badly, people often remember only the negative result and forget why the decision seemed reasonable at the time. A decision journal allows you to examine your thinking more accurately. You can see whether the problem was poor judgment, missing information, bad timing, or simply an outcome you could not have predicted. This is a lesser-known part of building confidence. You need to study your decisions instead of judging yourself only by their results. A good decision can produce a bad outcome. A poor decision can sometimes produce a good outcome by luck. Your goal is to improve the quality of your reasoning rather than chasing guaranteed results. People may also misunderstand you because they are judging your decision through their own experience. Someone who values financial security may not understand why you want to start a business. Someone who prefers a stable routine may not understand why you want to change careers. Someone who fears risk may interpret your willingness to learn something new as recklessness. Their perspective may contain useful warnings, but it does not automatically define what is right for your life. Listen carefully and then ask whether their concern applies to your actual situation. There is a difference between useful disagreement and emotional resistance. Useful disagreement gives you specific information. Emotional resistance often focuses on fear, social expectations, or personal preference. Learn to identify which one you are hearing. Suppose you tell someone that you want to spend the next year developing a new skill. They say that it is a waste of time. Do not immediately reject them. Ask why. Maybe they know something about the field that you do not. Maybe they have seen people fail because they lacked a certain qualification. That information could improve your plan. But if their only argument is that nobody in your family has done it before, that is not evidence about whether the plan can work. It is a statement about tradition. You can respect the person without treating tradition as proof. Your self-trust becomes stronger when you learn to ask better questions. What do I know? What am I assuming? What evidence supports this decision? What could go wrong? What would I do if that happened? What information would change my mind? What is the cost of doing nothing? That final question deserves special attention. People often evaluate the risk of action while ignoring the risk of staying exactly where they are. Avoiding a difficult decision also produces consequences. Staying in an unhealthy routine has a cost. Refusing to learn has a cost. Remaining silent about a serious problem has a cost. Doing nothing is still a decision in many situations. You do not need everyone to understand your choices. You need to understand your own reasons well enough to explain them clearly. If you cannot explain why you are doing something, take that as a signal to examine the decision more carefully. Write the reason in simple language. If the reason is only that you want to impress someone, question it. If the reason is that you are running away from responsibility, question it. If the reason is based on a clear value, practical goal, or meaningful improvement, you have something stronger to work with. Another major part of self-trust is keeping promises to yourself. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you will study, exercise, save money, finish important work, or reduce a harmful habit, and then ignore your own commitment, your confidence in yourself will weaken. The solution is not making bigger promises. Make smaller promises that you can actually keep. Study for 30 minutes instead of promising to study all night. Complete one important task instead of planning an unrealistic perfect day. Save a manageable amount instead of creating a financial plan you cannot maintain. Every kept promise gives you evidence that your words have meaning. Over time, this changes the way you see yourself. You also need to become comfortable being misunderstood for a period of time. Not every result appears immediately. Someone may question your decision because they cannot see the work happening privately. Your preparation may not be visible. Your learning may not be obvious. Your discipline may look boring from the outside. Do not demand immediate recognition for every improvement. Let your actions develop before you ask other people to understand them. This is not about hiding your life. It is about reducing your dependence on outside validation. There will also be moments when people close to you genuinely worry about your choices. Take those concerns seriously, especially when they involve money, safety, commitments, or major life changes. Trusting yourself does not mean ignoring people who care about you. Listen without surrendering your judgment. Explain your reasoning. Consider the risks. Adjust your plan if their information reveals something you missed. Then decide based on the full picture. One of the strongest signs of self-trust is the ability to say, "I need to think about this." You do not have to answer immediately because someone wants certainty from you. A thoughtful pause can protect you from decisions made under pressure. Another sign is being able to say, "I was wrong." People sometimes avoid admitting mistakes because they believe it will destroy their credibility. The opposite can happen. Honest correction can increase trust because it shows that your ego does not control your judgment. Review your week regularly. Look at the decisions you made. Which ones were based on fear? Which ones were based on clear priorities? Where did you follow useful advice? Where did you change your behavior simply because someone disapproved? Where did you ignore information because you wanted your original plan to be correct? These questions create self-awareness without requiring perfection. Your relationship with yourself becomes stronger when you stop demanding that every decision receive outside approval. You can listen to people without becoming dependent on them. You can accept criticism without abandoning your values. You can change direction without calling yourself a failure. You can continue working even while others are uncertain about your choice. Some people may understand you later. Some may never understand you. That cannot be the condition for moving forward. Trust yourself through evidence. Study your decisions. Keep reasonable promises. Learn from mistakes. Seek useful information. Accept correction. Protect your important values. Take responsibility for the results. Your goal is not to become a person who never doubts. Doubt can sometimes reveal missing information. Your goal is to become a person who knows how to examine doubt without allowing it to make every decision. Stand quietly behind choices you have examined carefully. Let your behavior show what your words mean. Give yourself enough time to learn before judging your progress, and keep building a relationship with yourself based on honesty rather than constant approval. The more responsibly you live, the more evidence you create that you can trust yourself. That trust does not appear in one dramatic moment. It develops through hundreds of ordinary decisions made with patience, honesty, and personal responsibility. Chapter 8. Take action before fear talks you out. Fear becomes especially powerful during the period between deciding to act and actually beginning. You may have a clear goal in the morning and a long list of reasons to delay by evening. Nothing outside you has changed, yet your mind has produced enough doubt to make the first step feel unnecessary. This is why action must often come before confidence. Many people wait for the right emotional state. They want to feel motivated, prepared, certain, energetic, and confident before they begin. That combination may not arrive. Action is often what creates those feelings later. Once you start doing the work, you gain information, experience, and evidence that were impossible to obtain while you were only thinking about the task. Notice how your mind behaves before an important action. It may suddenly remember smaller tasks that seem urgent. You may decide to organize your desk, check messages, research another option, or watch something for a few minutes. These activities can feel productive because you are busy. But sometimes busyness is simply a more comfortable alternative to the task that matters. Learn to identify the difference between preparation and delay. Preparation makes the next action easier. Delay makes you feel temporarily better without moving the important task forward. If you have been researching the same subject for 3 hours but have not started the application, research may have become avoidance. Give preparation a clear limit. Decide what information you actually need. Collect it, then begin. A useful method is to define the first physical action rather than the entire project. Do not tell yourself to write a book. Open the document and write the first paragraph. Do not tell yourself to become financially secure. Open your account and list your current expenses. Do not tell yourself to improve your health. Prepare tomorrow's first meal or take a short walk. Your brain responds differently to a specific action than to a huge goal. A large goal can create pressure because the result feels distant. A small action creates movement that you can observe. This is especially useful when fear is connected to uncertainty. You cannot know everything before beginning something new. The first step gives you information that thinking alone cannot provide. You may discover that the task is easier than expected. You may find a problem you had not considered. You may learn that your original plan needs adjustment. All three outcomes are useful because each gives you better information. Do not demand that your first attempt be impressive. The first version of many things exists mainly to teach you what needs to change. A beginner who expects excellent results immediately will often interpret normal difficulty as evidence that they should stop. A learner who expects mistakes can use those mistakes as part of the process. There is a simple way to protect yourself from this trap. Decide in advance what you are trying to learn from the first attempt. If you are starting a business project, your first goal may be to understand customer interest. If you are practicing public speaking, your first goal may be to become comfortable speaking for 5 minutes. If you are learning a language, your first goal may be to complete a basic conversation. A clear learning goal reduces unnecessary pressure. Fear also becomes stronger when the consequences of action are vague. Write down what you are actually risking. Sometimes the risk is small. You may lose an hour. You may receive a rejection. You may discover that you need more training. You may feel embarrassed for a short time. Once the risk is specific, it becomes easier to compare with the cost of never trying. The cost of inaction deserves equal attention. A person who never applies for a better job avoids rejection, but also guarantees that the current situation remains unchanged. Someone who never speaks honestly avoids an uncomfortable conversation, but carries the same unresolved issue forward. Someone who never learns a new skill avoids being a beginner, but also limits future opportunities. Action does not guarantee success. Inaction often guarantees less information and less growth. Another important skill is recognizing the moment when fear changes from a useful warning into an excuse. Real warning signs contain specific information. An excuse often becomes vague. You may tell yourself that now is not the right time, without explaining what would make the time right. You may say that you need more confidence without identifying what practical preparation is missing. Challenge vague reasons. Ask what exactly needs to change before you can begin. If you need a qualification, research how to obtain it. If you need money, calculate the amount. If you need more practice, schedule the practice. Turn uncertainty into a list of requirements. This prevents fear from controlling the conversation inside your mind. You should also control how you talk about your own abilities. Saying, "I cannot do this," can become an unnecessary final statement. A more accurate sentence is, "I cannot do this yet," or "I do not know how to do this yet." The second statement leaves room for learning while remaining honest about your current ability. But language alone is not enough. Follow the statement with action. Learn the skill. Find a teacher. Practice the difficult part. Ask someone experienced to show you the process. Read reliable material. Test what you learn. Fear becomes weaker when your skill level increases because the situation becomes more familiar. Another useful practice is to create starting rituals. Use the same simple sequence before important work. Put your phone away. Clear the workspace. Open the material. Set a short period of focused work. Begin with the smallest defined task. A repeated starting routine reduces the number of decisions you have to make before beginning. This matters because too many choices can create delay. If every work session begins with deciding what to do, where to do it, and when to start, your mind has many opportunities to postpone. A simple routine removes unnecessary decisions. Do not make the routine complicated. The goal is not to create another project. The goal is to make beginning familiar. You can also use a short starting rule. Commit to working for 10 minutes before deciding whether to continue. 10 minutes is often long enough to break the emotional resistance around beginning. Once you are engaged, continuing may become easier because the hardest part was starting. If the task genuinely needs to stop after 10 minutes, stop. The important thing is that you trained yourself to begin instead of automatically obeying the feeling of resistance. Fear often speaks most loudly before action and becomes quieter after evidence appears. Once you complete a small part of the work, you know more than you knew before. You have real information. You are no longer dealing entirely with imagined difficulty. That is why progress should be measured through behavior as well as results. Record the actions that move your goal forward. Number of applications sent, hours practiced, pages written, conversations completed, tasks finished, problems addressed. These measurements show whether your behavior matches your intentions. Be careful not to turn tracking into another form of pressure. The purpose is awareness, not punishment. A missed day is information. Look at why it happened. Was the plan unrealistic? Was the task unclear? Did another responsibility take priority? Adjust the system and continue. Fear may also appear after you have started. Do not assume that action eliminates nervousness. You may begin a project and then become afraid because the project is becoming real. You may receive your first criticism. You may reach a difficult stage. You may realize that success will require more work than expected. At that point, return to the next defined action. Do not attempt to solve the entire future in one afternoon. Identify what must be done next and complete it. This approach is especially important for long goals. Large changes are usually built through repeated ordinary behavior. A person does not become skilled because they felt inspired one morning. They become skilled because they practiced repeatedly after the excitement disappeared. Your future will be influenced by the actions you take after the initial excitement fades. That is where discipline becomes useful. Start treating fear as information rather than authority. Let it tell you what deserves attention. Then decide whether the concern requires preparation, caution, or simply practice. Do not let the feeling make the decision automatically. Today, choose one action that has been delayed because of uncertainty. Define the smallest useful starting point. Prepare only what is necessary. Set a short period for focused work. Begin before your mind creates another reason to wait. You may still feel nervous. That is acceptable. You may still doubt yourself. Keep moving. You may discover that your original plan was imperfect. Adjust it. You may make a mistake. Learn from it. You may receive criticism. Examine it. None of these outcomes requires you to return to complete inactivity. A life directed by fear becomes smaller because every important opportunity must first pass an emotional approval test. A life directed by responsible action becomes more capable because experience keeps expanding what you know you can handle. Take the step while the decision is still clear. Start before endless analysis changes the reason you wanted to begin. Let real experience teach you what imagination cannot. Keep your attention on the work in front of you and allow your confidence to grow from what you actually do. Chapter 9. Accept hard days without losing yourself. Hard days do not mean your life is failing. They mean you are dealing with something that requires more from you than an ordinary day. A difficult conversation, financial pressure, disappointment, rejection, exhaustion, or an unexpected problem can change your mood quickly. The important question is not how to create a life without difficult days. The important question is how to move through those days without abandoning the person you are trying to become. A hard day can affect your judgment because emotional pain changes what feels important. A problem that normally looks manageable can suddenly feel permanent. You may become impatient with people you care about. You may stop doing the habits that usually keep you stable. You may make decisions simply to escape the discomfort of the moment. This is why difficult days require structure rather than self-criticism. Start by reducing the number of decisions you make during intense stress. Keep a few basic routines that remain the same even when your mood changes. Wake up at a reasonable time, eat properly, complete your most important responsibility, move your body, keep your surroundings reasonably organized, get enough rest. These actions may seem ordinary, but ordinary actions provide stability when your thoughts are unsettled. Do not expect yourself to perform at your highest level every day. There is a difference between lowering your standards temporarily and abandoning them completely. A difficult day may require a smaller workload, but it does not require you to stop caring about your responsibilities. You can do the essential work and postpone less important tasks. This is where priorities become valuable. Make 3 categories for difficult days. Decide what must be done today. Decide what would be useful but can wait. Decide what does not matter right now. This prevents you from feeling guilty about everything at once. Suppose you receive disappointing news in the morning and still have important work to complete. You may not be able to concentrate for 8 hours at the same level. That does not mean the entire day is lost. Complete one important task. Take a short break. Handle the next responsibility. Reduce unnecessary commitments. You are adjusting your workload to reality while still maintaining responsibility. Hard days also reveal the difference between emotion and identity. You may feel angry without being an angry person. You may feel weak without being incapable. You may feel lost without having lost your direction permanently. A temporary emotional state should not become a permanent description of yourself. Pay attention to the words you use during difficult periods. Saying, "I am having a terrible day," is different from saying, "My life is terrible." Saying, "I made a bad decision," is different from saying, "I am a failure." Specific language protects you from turning one experience into a judgment about your entire life. Your mind naturally looks for explanations during pain. Sometimes it finds useful ones. Sometimes it creates harsh conclusions. You may lose one opportunity and immediately decide that nothing will work out. You may experience rejection and decide that nobody will ever value you. These conclusions feel convincing because your emotions are strong. Slow down before accepting them. Ask what actually happened. Ask what you know. Ask what remains possible. A difficult event deserves an accurate description rather than an exaggerated one. There is another important lesson about resilience. Recovery is not always about pushing harder. Sometimes your next responsible action is rest. Lack of sleep, poor nutrition, constant stress, and non-stop work can make ordinary problems feel much larger. Rest is not an escape from responsibility when it improves your ability to handle responsibility. Create a basic recovery routine for difficult evenings. Reduce unnecessary stimulation. Eat something nourishing. Take a shower. Walk for a short time. Write down what is bothering you. Decide what can wait until tomorrow. Put away work that does not need immediate attention. Give your mind a clear stopping point. Writing can be especially useful because emotional thoughts can become less overwhelming once they are expressed clearly. You do not need to write beautifully. Describe what happened. Describe what you feel. Describe what you need to do next, then stop. The purpose is to organize your thoughts rather than spend hours analyzing them. Do not isolate yourself simply because you are having a hard day. Choose carefully who you speak with. You do not need to tell everyone everything. One calm and trustworthy person can provide useful perspective. Tell them what happened and what kind of support you need. Maybe you need someone to listen. Maybe you need practical advice. Maybe you need help with a task. Be specific about what you need. People cannot always guess. Saying, "I am struggling today and could use some company," is clearer than expecting someone to notice your mood and understand the reason. At the same time, avoid making one person's reaction the measure of your worth. Someone may not understand what you are going through. They may respond poorly. That can hurt, but it does not mean your experience is invalid. Choose support based on trust and maturity rather than simply choosing whoever is available. Hard days can also tempt you toward habits that provide immediate comfort but create more problems later. Excessive scrolling, unnecessary spending, overeating, staying awake too late, avoiding responsibilities, or constantly seeking distraction may reduce discomfort for a short period. The cost often arrives later. Instead of asking what will make me feel better for the next hour, ask what will make tomorrow easier. That question changes your decisions. Preparing tomorrow's work may not feel exciting tonight, but it can reduce morning pressure. Going to bed on time may feel less appealing than staying distracted, but it protects your energy. Cleaning a small area may feel boring, but it can make the next morning more orderly. This is not about forcing yourself to be productive during every emotional struggle. It is about avoiding choices that create additional problems simply because you are already having a difficult day. You should also allow yourself to feel disappointment without immediately trying to erase it. Some experiences hurt because they mattered. You do not need to pretend that rejection does not hurt. You do not need to act cheerful 5 minutes after receiving bad news. Acknowledging pain can be healthier than fighting the fact that it exists. Give the emotion a reasonable place. Then return to what you can do. A useful question during hardship is this: what part of my character do I want to protect today? Maybe you want to remain honest. Maybe you want to remain respectful. Maybe you want to keep one important promise. Maybe you want to avoid taking your frustration out on someone who did nothing wrong. This question shifts attention from controlling the entire situation to protecting your behavior. Difficult circumstances can also teach you about your weak points. Maybe you become impatient when tired. Maybe you spend money when stressed. Maybe you avoid communication after disappointment. Maybe you stop taking care of your health when work becomes difficult. Do not use these discoveries to attack yourself. Use them to improve your preparation. Create a plan for the next difficult period. Decide what habits you want to maintain. Decide who you can contact. Decide which responsibilities cannot be ignored. Decide what signs tell you that you need more rest. Having a plan before the next hard day arrives can make your response more deliberate. You also need to accept that some situations take time. You cannot force grief, financial recovery, relationship repair, or major life changes to finish according to your preferred schedule. You can work consistently without demanding immediate results. Measure progress differently during difficult periods. Instead of asking whether everything is fixed, ask whether you handled today better than you could have handled it before. Did you stay respectful? Did you complete something important? Did you avoid making the situation worse? Did you learn something? Did you take care of your basic needs? Those are meaningful forms of progress. A hard day can leave you emotionally exhausted even after you have done everything right. That does not erase the value of your actions. Some days are about achievement, other days are about endurance and responsible maintenance. Both matter. Keep your identity larger than your current circumstances. You are not defined by one failed project, one rejection, one argument, one financial setback, or one painful week. Those events are parts of your experience. They are not the complete description of your life. Your responsibility is to keep your values active during difficult periods. Continue being honest. Continue learning. Continue taking care of important responsibilities. Continue treating people fairly. Continue making reasonable decisions, even when your emotions are demanding immediate relief. Tomorrow may require a different response. Give yourself permission to begin again without carrying yesterday's failure into today's decisions. Review what happened. Keep the lesson. Release the unnecessary self-judgment. Hard days will come again, because life is not completely predictable. You do not need to fear that fact. Build routines that support you. Keep people around you who can give honest and healthy support. Prepare for predictable problems. Rest when rest is necessary. Act when action is required. Learn from every difficult period without allowing it to become your identity. A difficult day does not deserve the power to decide who you are. You still have choices about your words, your habits, your responsibilities, and your next action. Keep those choices in your hands. Let the day be difficult without allowing it to make you careless with the life you are building. Chapter 10. Live your life without asking permission. Your life becomes more honest when you stop waiting for everyone around you to approve your choices. Many people spend years asking for permission without realizing they are doing it. They wait for family members to agree. They wait for friends to understand. They wait until their co-workers respect the decision. They wait until they feel completely confident. Meanwhile, important years pass while their real priorities remain on hold. Living without asking permission does not mean ignoring responsibility or doing whatever you want. It means accepting that you are responsible for making the important choices that shape your life. Other people can offer advice. They can warn you about risks. They can share their experience. But you still have to decide what kind of life you are willing to build. Start by examining the decisions you regularly postpone because you want approval. Maybe you want to change your career. Maybe you want to learn a new skill. Maybe you want to improve your health. Maybe you want to spend less time with people who constantly bring you down. Maybe you want to create something that matters to you. Write down the decision and then write whose approval you are waiting for. This simple exercise can expose an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is not lack of opportunity, it is fear of disappointing someone. Disappointing someone is uncomfortable, but discomfort is not always evidence that you are doing something wrong. A responsible decision can still make another person unhappy. A reasonable boundary can still frustrate someone. A healthy change can still create disagreement. Your responsibility is to make the decision carefully rather than making every decision according to other people's emotional reactions. There is an important difference between permission and accountability. Permission means someone else must approve your choice before you act. Accountability means you understand the consequences and accept responsibility for them. Mature independence requires accountability. Suppose you want to leave a job. Do not leave simply because you are frustrated one morning. Examine your finances. Review your responsibilities. Understand your alternatives. Build savings if possible. Search for other opportunities. Consider what skills you need. Then make the decision based on evidence. You are not asking permission to change your career. You are taking responsibility for a major decision. This principle applies to smaller choices too. People sometimes spend enormous amounts of energy asking others whether they should read a certain book, start exercising, change their schedule, learn a skill, or pursue a personal interest. Advice can be useful, but there is a point where constant consultation becomes avoidance. Practice making ordinary decisions without polling everyone around you. Choose what you will study. Decide how you will use your evening. Pick a project and start it. Make a reasonable plan and observe the results. Your ability to make decisions grows through use. You cannot become confident at choosing while refusing to choose. Another reason people wait for permission is that they fear being judged for failing. As long as you have not started, you can protect the image of potential. You can say that you could have done it. You can tell yourself that the timing was not right. Once you act, reality gives you feedback. That feedback can be uncomfortable, but it is useful. You discover what works. You discover what does not. You find gaps in your skills. You learn how much effort is required. You meet people who know more than you. You become better informed. A person who takes responsible action can learn faster than someone who spends years trying to avoid every possible mistake. Do not make the mistake of confusing independence with refusing advice. Some of the best decisions are improved by outside knowledge. Talk to people who have experience. Ask difficult questions. Listen to warnings. Study the facts. Then make the final decision yourself. A good advisor should improve your thinking rather than replace it. You should also know why you want the life you are pursuing. Without clear personal priorities, independence can become impulsive behavior. You may start chasing whatever looks impressive. You may copy other people's goals. You may change direction every time you see someone succeeding. Write down what matters to you. Consider the kind of work you want to do. Consider how you want to spend your time. Consider what relationships you want to maintain. Consider what skills you want to develop. Consider what responsibilities you are willing to accept. Your priorities become a filter for decisions. Suppose an opportunity pays more, but requires a lifestyle you do not want. Another opportunity pays less, but gives you time to develop an important skill. Neither choice is automatically correct. Your priorities determine which trade-off makes sense for you. This is why you cannot build your life entirely around other people's definitions of success. Someone else may value status. You may value flexibility. Someone may want constant growth in income. You may value time with family. Someone may want public recognition. You may prefer private work and independence. There is nothing wrong with learning from successful people. The mistake is copying their priorities without examining your own. Living without asking permission also means accepting that some people may never understand your choices. You can explain yourself respectfully, but you cannot force another person to see your life through your experience. A parent may worry about your career. A friend may question your priorities. A colleague may think your goals are unrealistic. Listen to their concerns. Check whether they have identified a genuine risk. If they have, adjust your plan when appropriate. If they have not, Continue responsibly. You do not need to turn every disagreement into a debate. Sometimes the strongest response is simply continuing with your work. This becomes especially important when you are building something that takes time. Early progress may be invisible. People may not understand why you spend evenings studying. They may not understand why you refuse unnecessary spending. They may not understand why you are changing your habits. Do not demand recognition for every private improvement. Build the skill. Complete the work. Keep the routine. Let your results provide information later. There is also a personal cost to constantly seeking approval. You begin to monitor yourself through other people's reactions. You ask whether they liked your decision. You wonder whether they are disappointed. You change your behavior to avoid criticism. Eventually, you may become so focused on being acceptable that you lose contact with what you actually want. You can reduce this habit by asking a better question after making an important decision. Do not ask whether everyone approved. Ask whether the decision was thoughtful, responsible, and consistent with your priorities. That gives you a standard you can actually control. You should also become comfortable saying no without creating a long explanation. Your time is limited. Your energy is limited. Your attention is limited. Accepting every request means giving other people control over resources that belong to your life. A respectful no can be enough. You do not need to provide 10 reasons. You can say that you are not available. You can say that you have another priority. You can say that you cannot take on the responsibility. People who are used to your constant availability may react negatively. Their reaction does not automatically mean your boundary is unfair. Use your time according to your values, rather than according to whoever asks first. There will be mistakes. You will choose something that does not work. You will trust someone who disappoints you. You will start a project and later change direction. None of this means you should hand control of your life back to other people. Learn from the decision. Identify what you missed. Change the plan. Continue. Personal freedom becomes stronger when you accept the consequences of your own choices. You stop blaming everyone else because you understand that you participated in the decision. You also stop giving everyone else credit for your successes. Your life becomes something you actively manage. Take a practical step today. Choose one decision you have been postponing because you are waiting for approval. Write down the facts. Identify the risks. Consider the consequences. Ask for advice from someone qualified if necessary. Then make your own decision. Do not make reckless choices simply to prove that you are independent. Do not reject useful guidance just because you want to feel strong. Real independence requires judgment. It means knowing when to listen and when to decide. Your life does not need to look impressive to everyone. It needs to be meaningful and responsible to you. Use your time deliberately. Choose your relationships carefully. Develop useful skills. Take care of your responsibilities. Make decisions based on clear priorities. Accept the possibility of criticism. Correct your mistakes without surrendering your independence. You will never receive universal approval. No person does. Different people will interpret your choices through different experiences. Trying to satisfy everyone can keep you permanently undecided. Stop waiting for a perfect moment when everyone understands you. Stop waiting for complete certainty. Stop asking people to confirm that you are allowed to become a different person. Study the situation. Make a responsible choice. Accept the consequences. Learn from the result. Then make the next decision. Your life is built through these ordinary choices. The people around you can advise you, encourage you, challenge you, and sometimes disappoint you. But they cannot live your days for you. They cannot carry your responsibilities. They cannot choose your priorities. You have to do that. Live with enough courage to make your own decisions and enough discipline to accept what those decisions require. Respect other people without surrendering your judgment. Listen without becoming dependent. Change when evidence demands change. Stay committed when your reasons remain strong. You do not need permission to take responsibility for your own life. You need the courage to choose it and the discipline to live according to it. You have reached the end of this audiobook, but the real work begins after these words stop playing. Stop being afraid of people, problems, and life is not about becoming a person who never feels fear. It is about becoming a person who no longer allows fear to decide what happens next. People may judge you. Problems will appear. Some days will feel difficult. You will face uncertainty, rejection, pressure, and moments when you question yourself. You cannot control all of that. But you can control how you respond. So the next time fear tells you to stay silent, speak with honesty. When a problem tells you to run, face the next part you can handle. When worry takes your attention, return to what you can do today. When someone challenges you, stay calm. When life becomes difficult, protect your character and keep moving. Do not wait until you feel fearless. Start living with courage while fear is still present. And remember this simple truth: your life changes when your daily decisions change. Come back to this audiobook whenever you need to reset your thinking, strengthen your discipline, or remind yourself that fear does not deserve control over your future. Until then, keep learning, keep improving, and keep choosing courage over avoidance.